So this is kind of just going to be a talking head video with some Halo gameplay in the background. No clips from the show because I don't want to deal with Paramount's, claiming the video and thing of that nature. So this will be a long video. If you don't want to watch a long video, that's on you. If you feel like it, you can put this on your laptop or another monitor while you game and listen to my opinion on the Halo TV show. I have talking points jotted down, and we're pretty much just talking about the entire season 2, not each episode individually, just a conversation about the entire season as a whole. Not, hey, let's go through each episode and talk about if that makes the video even longer than it needs to be. It's just an opinion piece about the series, the season. To start things off, it's important to know that I am not one of the people who just hates this show because it exists and whatever reason. I am way more open-minded to live action content that exists on its own, does its own thing, has creator freedom, but that content does still need to be good regardless of how much freedom it has when it comes to creativity. The Halo TV show has good moments. Each Spartan Silver Team is likable. The Spartan armor looks good. The casting for Silver Team, Halsey, having Jen Taylor voice Cortana, Captain Keyes as an actor, it's all good. When the show's doing its action scenes, it's all good. Also, yeah, spoiler alerts. This is your only spoiler warning. There's going to be spoilers throughout this entire video, especially towards the end that talks about a lot of the ending stuff from season 2. So this is your only warning. The issue is, the thing that happens between those action scenes, between the good casting, is the writing. The cast has to read and portray, this very, very inconsistent writing. That's the problem with this show. That's the problem with this series. It's also just, the contrast for characters compared to, the content that they come from. If you are someone who played the games or read the books, or both, you have a pre-diagnosed thought process or opinion or visual perception of these characters. So if a character is different, you're going to have a different opinion about that than anyone else who didn't play the games, who didn't read the books, or didn't watch any of the other content like Halo Legends and or Nightfall and things of that nature. The example I'll give you is Miranda Keyes. I think the casting is okay for her, but I think her character in the show could be better. Maybe it will be as the series goes on, and yes, it will go on, more on that later. The issue with Miranda, in my opinion, is she's kind of a weak character. She's kind of whiny, very vulnerable, and the dynamic between her and Halsey is hit or miss. Is there a problem overall with a vulnerable character? No. But this is Miranda Keyes. The comparisons to her game counterpart, and only talk about her game counterpart, not include her in the books. Miranda is a strong-willed character, brave, and commanding of respect and authority. And just in general, incredible. She's more like her father than her mother, even though in the games, we don't really see Miranda with Halsey at all. They don't mention each other. It's like she doesn't even exist. A lot of that can be associated with Halsey's personality of not associated with her own family at all. The only person she sees as family is Master Chief. As in the games and books, Halsey's connection to John is like a mother-son relationship, even though Chief himself doesn't show that same emotional return, the game often conveys with Halsey. Anyways, this isn't about, those two in particular. It's about Miranda. Miranda is different. She's a scientist in the show, not a commanding naval officer as she is in the games. She's still high ranking, but, what I'm trying to say is, she's more scientist than combat in comparison. She's more like her mother than like her father. She doesn't come off as a strong-willed or brave. And again, if you are someone who played the games or read the books, you see this and you're like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Miranda. But on the flip side, if you're someone who never played the games, never read the books, and this is your first introduction to Miranda, she just seems like, a generic scientist type character in a show. You're not thinking about her as how she compares to, the source she comes from. So even though I myself take issue with Miranda in the show, another viewer who isn't like me will have a different opinion of Miranda, and that's okay. But let's shift gears and talk about Ackerson. Joseph Morgan, whom I see as one of those actors where no matter what role you give him, he's going to kill it. Most recently, he really did good in Titans as Brother Blood, and here as Ackerson, he does well being an Oni leadership officer. In the books, he's a colonel in the army. But in the show, Joseph Morgan does a good job conveying, being heartless and doing the shady things Oni is known for, but also showing regret and remorse when around his father, and Master Chief gets him a good talking to. Now, I'm not going to talk about each character, just, the ones I think should be mentioned, the ones that I think stand out, and hasn't been, when it comes to Ackerson, he wasn't in the first season, so I want to mention Ackerson. Good character overall, and I enjoyed the portrayal from Joseph Morgan. Not much needs to be said about Kwan. Her character and her plotline has always been one of the worst parts of the show, and it doesn't really change here. It's not interesting. I'm not curious about where it's going to go, how it's going to connect to the actual plot. It does seem like there is something with her, quote unquote powers, but it's just meh. Soren is a cool character, but even his subplot is kind of running its course. I'm personally at the point where I just don't care. So let's get into the meat of things. Again, I want to speed this video up as much as possible, so it's not too long for you guys to watch and listen. So we want to speed things up and get to the meat of talking about the show. Master Chief in the actual plot. Throughout the entire season, Chief isn't in his armor, and the show is self-aware that we all want him in the armor, because there is a scene where he comes and looks at it and goes, "Not today," or "I'll come back for you." It comes off like a slap to the face of the viewers who want to see him in his armor. Now, my theory is the actor who plays Chief has in his contract that he doesn't spend a lot of time in armor. He spends a lot of time out of armor or without a helmet on, because if he's in suit all the time, then he as an actor is replaceable, because at that point he becomes just a voice inside the suit, and he probably doesn't want that from his own career standpoint. The other and likely reason for why we just can't have Chief in his armor all the time is because of how live action content is written and who the target audience is. This show's target audience isn't you, and it's not me. We are already Halo fans. We are already going to watch this show regardless, even if we don't like it. We have an emotional investment in Halo. The target audience is non-gamers and non-Halo fans. Thus, they chose to be a non-canon and to do as many weird things that Halo fans hate, but the people who don't play Halo don't mind. I'll say this right now. I often see people who are not a fan of Halo or who aren't gamers say they enjoy the show. When I'm looking on social media and I'm looking at the comments when it comes to the stuff involved in this show, there's a lot of people who I never played Halo before, not really a gamer. I enjoy this show. That's who they're targeting. They don't care about us. They want the people who aren't us, because they already have us. We're already invested. And a lot of that shows, and it shows numbers. The show does very well in viewership for Paramount. In season 1, the first episode broke Paramount's viewership record. Season 2 premiere did great numbers, only finishing behind the premieres of Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Griselda. Even critically, this show is doing fine. Season 1 has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Season 2 is sitting at 89% all at the time of recording of this video. Now that's, the critic score, the audience score is 60% and 70%. Again, at the time of recording this video. So the numbers are subject to change by the time this video actually comes out, but that tells you, that people who actually watch the show, the majority of people watching the show, are enjoying it, and that the comments you're seeing on the internet is just, more so the Halo fans and who don't enjoy this at all, because they want a true Halo experience. They want to see with Halo, the Halo TV show, what Last of Us fans saw with the Last of Us TV show. So what about the way the show is written? In Henry's video, I said that this show's writing, its screenplay, its pacing, is storytelling whiplash. This show will be good for one moment, and then followed up with a moment that makes you go, and then follow that up with something terrible for 30 minutes. And then in this show, something very good that makes you interested in what happens in the next episode. This show, when it comes to its story, its pacing, and its writing, is just all over the place. One thing to understand about the writing style for Master Chief, though, in a show like this is, with Hollywood, one of the things that they want to do with the main characters is make them accessible, make them relatable as possible, especially for the audience. So the audience will like them easier. This includes making characters who don't show emotion more emotional, having characters who don't speak a lot speak often, giving them hardships like losing fights or dying friends, and even in the case of this show, having sex. Yes, that's part of the writing to make Chief more human. Almost every show and movie will do something along the lines of this, writing characters to be relatable. For the writers, it's seen as an easy way to get viewers to like and buy in on the main character. Now's the time we talk about the heavy spoilers and my overall feeling of season 2. So the show finally ends with Chief getting onto the ring. You can look at season 1 and 99% of season 2 as Halo Reach, with the last 1% of season 2 being basically the start of Halo Combat Evolve. Yes, it's not actually either of those two things, it's just a comparison for sake of pacing. While on the ring, Chief has his final showdown with the Arbiter with Maki in attendance. I'm not going to talk about Maki, I don't care about her existence. Everyone knows no one cares about her existence, we're just going to ignore she exists. And when I say final showdown, by the way, I do mean final. Chief kills the Arbiter, which makes you wonder, will there be another elite who takes up the mantle that becomes the Arbiter, we are familiar with in the games, or will this be the only Arbiter in the show, and we won't have that Arbiter and Chief brotherhood or connection or bond we get in the games? During Arbiter and Chief's fight, Kai decides she wants to save the UNSC from being slaughtered by the Covenant by doing something science fiction fans kind of have a bad taste in their mouth of: the Holdo remover. For those that never seen Star Wars The Last Jedi, there's a character named Holdo. Star Wars fans hate her and everything with her in it. Holdo, in an effort to save the Resistance, orders all of her crew to leave her ship as she begins to sacrifice herself by flying her ship into the Supremacy Omega class dreadnought. Kai, after having all the living Spartan 3s evacuated from the Covenant ship she's on, takes control of the Covenant ship and flies it into a Covenant cruiser, seemingly killing herself. But the show ends with a scene of her just floating in space, 100% intact, no damage done, just floating. So she might actually not be dead. We've seen Spartans survive floating in space depending on how long it takes for them to re-enter the atmosphere. We've seen Spartans survive re-entry and recover from armor lockup. So she could be dead, but she also could be alive. This is going to be one situation where the writers are going to decide that, on a whim, it's you can look at this, it's kind of like a fake out. You can see it as, that kind of thing where it's like, oh, they're showing her as dead, but she might actually be alive. Haha, faked out. Now, I've left out a very important thing from the finale: the Flood. The Flood finally make an appearance, and that appearance is kind of zombie-like, which is fine. The writer for this episode was David Wainer, whom was the writer for Fear the Walking Dead. It shows in these Flood scenes, because again, they have a very zombie-like appearance in a way that they move, in a way that they attack. Again, that's okay. You can kind of look at the Flood as kind of Halo zombies, and that's just fine. They have an infestation form. That infection turns you into the Flood. That's kind of how most generic zombies work. When it comes to those scenes, all those scenes are cool and good scenes, so no negatives right there. The Oni base is infected. Pretty much everyone on the base dies and gets turned into the Flood, with a few survivors here and there, like Soren, his son, Ackerson, Quan, and Miranda. Well, and kind of sort of Halsey. Halsey is infected. Yes, before even getting to the ring, she's infected. Before all the things we know about Halsey that goes on in Halo lore, none of that's going to happen in this show if things stay the way that they are. She's infected. She is presumably going to die. I say presumably because as a last-ditch effort to prevent Halsey from dying and turning into a Flood, Miranda freezes Halsey in a cryopod with hopes it slows down the infection long enough to find a cure. Here's my prediction. In season 3, Miranda will find a cure on the ring, or Chief will find a cure on the ring, and Halsey will be fine. So before wrapping this up, throughout the show and as the episode ended, Master Chief has been talking to someone who doesn't get revealed up until right before the credits roll. That someone being 343 Guilty Spark. At least that's who it appears to be. A name is not given, but considering things, it would make sense if it is Monitor Chakas, aka Guilty Spark. The scene is cool overall, but I do have beef. The voice of Guilty Spark just sounds like a normal human voice. It's not robotic at all. I feel like, that's crazy. Like, they should have ran the actor's voice through a filter to sound robotic. Over my Twitch stream, I talked about, this in a deeper way or a longer way, and I used Destiny's Ghost as an example. Originally, Peter Dinklage voiced the Destiny Ghost. It sounded like a normal human voice, and it also lacked any kind of real acting in it. Like, it sounded like he was just reading a script. It didn't sound like it was natural at all. It sounded like it was uninspiring, and it was just plain out awful. So Bungie did a recast for the Ghost, brought in Nolan North, a legend of voice acting, and then ran his voice through a filter or generator to make it sound robotic. And thus we have the Ghost voice we have today. Overall, I think season 2 is okay. As a TV show, at least. If I'm grading it as just a TV show and ignoring my own, bias because it's Halo, or ignoring, what I want a Halo show to be, as a TV show, it's an okay show. If I'm grading it as a Halo fan, I will say it's like a 6 out of 10 at best, with the strongest thing keeping it from being a 5 or lower being the second half of the season and how it's stuck is landing. When the Halo show is being Halo, it's pretty freaking good. When the Halo show is being a CW thriller drama, it's pretty mid at best. But anyways, that is it for this long video. If you made it this far, I appreciate that. I do hope you all enjoyed the video, the review and the conversation. Leave all your ratings and your opinions on season 2 in the comments, and give a legit thought on what your hopes are for season 3. Don't just be like, I hope there isn't one season 3. Like, it's going to be a season 3, so suck it up. With all that said, I hope you all have a good day. Stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm your boy. I'm out of here. Deuces.